This summer, Disney took a swing at the box office, but on the surface, the House of Mouse had a promising summer lineup. From Marvel, they had a fresh Ant-Man installment and a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Elsewhere, there was another adventure for Indiana Jones. Pixar was releasing a new film called Elemental, and old classics such as A Haunted Mansion was being rebooted, and a live-action retelling of The Little Mermaid. However, only one of these movies was both a commercial and critical success, and if you have read the title of this video, you probably know which one. So what is going wrong at Disney? To begin with, don't just take my word for the extent of Disney's failure. Let me show you. First up, we have the live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. Now, let's ignore the casting issue, which is a whole other can of worms, and let's focus on numbers. The film made around $566 million. For most movies, this would be, as Borat says,
great success.
However, other live-action remakes like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin and The Lion King each broke the $1 billion mark at the box office. The Little Mermaid didn't even get close. It gets even worse though. The film had a production budget of around $250 million. This doesn't take into account marketing or distribution. As a general rule of thumb, the break-even point for a film is around 2.5 times the budget. So not only did the movie fail to breach the $1 billion milestone, but it performed so poorly that it incurred a substantial loss. And the trend continues with films like Elemental, which whilst it surpassed its budget, it still wasn't profitable once marketing and distribution is included. Similarly, The Haunted Mansion had a disastrous opening weekend, and as of making this video, it was only made $75 million against its $150 million budget. Safe to say it isn't going anywhere fast and is another loss for Disney. Ant-Man 3 earned $470 million globally. It's not even close to matching the first two movies in box office numbers. It was one of those rare Marvel movies that failed to clear the $500 million mark globally. It was reported that Quantumania needed to hit $600 million to break even, which it failed spectacularly to do. I suppose Disney and Marvel can take solace in the cluster that was The Flash, which also bombed at the box office. And this brings us to the biggest flop of them all, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It was supposed to be Disney's biggest hit of the year, hardly the fitting send-off for Harrison Ford's character, and marks another legacy franchise that has been gutted by Lucasfilm. It has lost hundreds of millions of dollars, and safe to say won't be coming back anytime soon. It's painfully obvious Disney's host of summer movies were commercial disappointments, and that frankly is an understatement. It was more like a fucking disaster of epic proportions, but the movies flopped critically too. In contrast, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 amassed a substantial $844 million at the box office. With a production budget of only $250 million, the film not only achieved profitability, but also aligned its commercial triumph with its critical acclaim. From a string of underperforming releases from Disney, this movie has emerged as a beacon of success amongst a shower of shite. Outside of the other movies just not being any good, why are they not performing? Disney likes reboots because it views them as safe. The logic being, if fans like a movie before, then making a sequel or reboot makes sense, right? Now, to a point this does work, but Disney is forgetting one thing. The movie has to be something fans are actually waiting for. People love the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney. That doesn't mean they want to watch a film about it. Similarly, Indy's adventures arguably ended after the third installment, and certainly after the fourth. People weren't clamouring for a fifth. When it comes to The Little Mermaid, I guess Disney just isn't done trashing its legacy.
No! God, please, no!
What Guardians 3 had going for it though is that people actually wanted a sequel. Just look at the outcry from fans when James Gunn was briefly fired. There was a clear demand for more, and also to conclude the trilogy. Apart from Guardians, this summer Disney just strikes me as a company that are out of ideas. They're afraid to invent, so they're falling back on beloved IPs, which they then fail to respect. The second reason why Guardians 3 succeeded is that it has likeable characters that are in turn played by likeable actors, bring relatively unknown characters into the limelight. Let's be real, most people had never heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy before the first movie. Over the course of 3 movies and also cameo appearances, audiences have grown to understand and like this band of heroes. To top it off, it also contains some pretty big star power like Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, who is currently one of the highest grossing actresses in Hollywood, Vin Diesel, who must be the highest paid actor for saying 3 words, and of course Bradley Cooper. On the other hand, Harrison Ford's starlight is certainly waning as he ages. Halle Bailey is relatively unknown as an actress in The Little Mermaid. Elemental had no big names attached in the lead role, and the big names in The Haunted Mansion don't quite have the big box office draw that I think they once did. Finally, none of the cast of Guardians 3 seem to come off as unnecessarily toxic and don't seem to want to undermine the source material, which is a big plus in today's cinematic landscape.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
You serious?
Lastly, and this is a Marvel specific point, the Guardians 3, and in fact the whole franchise, wouldn't have needed the Marvel name to succeed. Audiences go to see them because of the plot, tone, comedy, and action, which are fun. They transcend the mere spectacle of characters clad in tight spandex leaping about. Instead, they portray a tightly knit ensemble of intricately developed characters who establish genuine connections whilst undertaking the mission of saving the universe. In many respects, the Guardians trilogy epitomises the ideal MCU experience, which I think Disney have forgotten. Too often nowadays, Marvel films are carried by the Marvel name, not because they are necessarily good films. Latest figures, I think, go to show that audiences are slowly cottoning on to this. People go to see the Guardians movie because they care about the characters. Despite a star-studded summer lineup, only one hero emerged victorious, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. While the other movies in the Disney roster were left in the dirt, Guardians 3 rocked both the cash register and the audience's heart. Why the stark contrast? Only one movie respected the audience, wasn't trying to subvert expectations or reinvent the wheel. Perhaps it's time for Disney to mix a dash of innovation into the nostalgic potion. Looking at what is next from Disney? Well, I don't think they've learned their lesson. And that is a wrap, folks. Time for you to go on your merry way.